Hey folks, Cormac here, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about soufflés. Now, soufflés seem to scare home cooks. They never want to try them, but they're actually way easier than you think that they are. Admittedly, in a restaurant environment, they can be tricky when you got stuff coming in and out of the oven, you got orders coming in and out, but at home, they're really not that bad. And when I used to work as a private chef, I used to always put on soufflés whenever I kind of was short on time, because you can literally start your soufflé when the main courses go out, and 15-20 minutes later you're sending the soufflé out made from scratch. And for a dessert that impressive, I don't know any others that have a prep time that's as short as that. So I'm going to show you some great tips how you're going to have a fail-safe soufflé at home. I hope you give it a try. I'm going to put the ingredients at the bottom for this one because you need to be right on your measurements. So today I'm going to be showing you how to turn this into this. First up, preheat your oven to 180 degrees and get all your equipment and ingredients out. I'm going to leave a little list of what you need. You don't need a lot, but it's good to have everything out at the start. Next, we're going to trim the base off our oranges. You want to have this nice and flat so they sit properly when you put them in the oven, otherwise it's going to rise wonky. Next, we're going to chop off the top. This is going to kind of be our bowl for the souffle. So they're going to sit nicely like that, and they're going to rise nicely like that. Next up, we're going to hollow out our oranges because we're going to bake our souffle inside the shell. So just work your way around with a spoon. Save all the juice. We're going to use the juice in our reduction. So just juice that part of the orange next. So we're going to have a little shell like that, nice and clean. Now we've got our milk heating up. We're going to bring that to a boil, and we're going to have our orange juice reducing by about 2/3. So we've got our egg yolks here. We're going to add the sugar to those. And we're going to give that a good whisk. Make sure it's completely incorporated and nicely mixed together. Next up, we're going to add our corn flour and our flour to that. And same again, we're going to give it a nice good mix again. Make sure it's nice, smooth, no lumps. And now we're going to add our boiled milk to that. Add it slowly and give it a good mix. So now we're going to return that to the saucepan. And for this stage, you really want to stay with it. It can burn really easily, and you just want to stick with it and just make sure you're stirring it all the time, and you need to cook it out till it's really thick. Now we're going to add our lemon zest to that mixture. Followed by our reduced orange juice. And add this in incremental amounts because if you add it all at once, it's just harder to mix it. So once you've got that done, you can just leave it aside to cool. Next up, we're going to do our egg whites. So I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice, which helps them whip up, and a pinch of salt. That's going to help them break down easier. And we're going to have our sugar ready, and we're going to start whisking slowly at first. I'm going to build up as the egg whites gain volume. Now this is going to take 8 to 10 minutes to do by hand. If you have a machine, it's going to be much quicker. So if you want to use an electric whisk or a stand mixer, go for it. So when they get to this point, you want to start to gradually add your sugar. Don't put it all in at once or dump it in one spot. Just kind of sprinkle it over it, slowly incorporate it. And then we need to keep going. We need to keep whisking it till it's really stiff. These egg whites and the volume of air we get into these is what's going to give the souffle lift. So another thing to note, make sure you've got your bowl and your whisk perfectly clean before you start, because fat or pieces of egg or whatever else from the yolk can stop your egg whites rising properly. So you want to keep going until they get really stiff, really glossy. Now, once they're like that, we're ready to go. So the next stage is you want to lighten your mixture. This is called Creme Patisserie, this mixture that we've made. And it's a bit stiff still. So you want to add some egg whites in there first, and that's just going to help it incorporate better without losing the volume. So it's important when we add this mixture now that we don't deflate our egg whites. We really want to keep as much aeration inside this as possible. So that's why they say folding in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to gently lift from the bottom and turn it over up onto itself. And that's going to make sure that we keep as much volume as possible. Now it should look like this, and we're ready to fill our orange shells. So make sure you give them a bit of a tap as you're filling them. This will help make sure there's no air pockets in the bottom. And we just want to go just about over the top of the orange. What we're going to do next is we're going to just take off that little bit of top piece so we got a perfectly smooth lid. Otherwise they can kind of rise wonky and they're not going to look as pretty in the end. Right, so they should look like that. And next up, what I like to do is put a little bit of icing sugar dusted over the top. This kind of turns into a crust in the oven, and it gives it extra texture and makes a really nice kind of crispy, chewy lid. And that's it. Into the oven. Takes about 8 minutes. Check them maybe after 6 or 7. Don't open the oven door too early. And there we have them. What I like to serve them with is ice cream, because I think the hot and cold contrast works really well and it brings a real richness to the whole thing. So I'm going to serve with chocolate ice cream, so I like to make a little hole and just plop them in. Just like that. So there we have it, really delicious. Hope you give them a try, don't be afraid of them. If you like this, please check out some of my other videos. I got some other interesting ones on there. Happy cooking.